to Scott Fox After 9. Today, I'm going to do a slightly lighter episode. I know that yesterday was heavy. I got a lot of great response on that episode, which was mainly about the Jeffrey Epstein files that got released late last week. Some people completely shocked. Some people saying, I want to look into this myself, and that's totally fine. I encourage you to do that. Some people just plain sad that there are still people out there, and we know they did something wrong to kids and vulnerable people, and they're still walking the streets. The number one comment I got after yesterday's episode is, why has nobody been arrested yet? Apparently, Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were trafficking girls to nobody. How has nobody else been arrested? Absolutely crazy. But you know what? Like I said, I know that was a heavy episode. So today we're going to keep it a little bit lighter. I've got a special guest coming up on this episode. Very soon, I'm going to talk to Jack. He is an odds maker at PointsBet Canada. We're going to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl, some of the bets you can make, how the odds are looking heading into the game. It's going to be some good, tangible stuff that you can take with you over the next couple of days as we get ready for the game. I've also got a little bit of political stuff today. You're going to hear some committee testimony, and you're going to hear a little bit from the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre. That's coming up toward the end of the episode. I'll save the politics until then. Before we get to that, though, a couple of big stories that are happening right now, and I'm going to weigh in on them. I'm really wondering what's going to happen with this news conference today. In case you have not heard, and I think everybody has at this point, today, York Regional Police. York Region is the area directly north of Toronto. York Regional Police are holding a news conference after they arrested at least 7 and possibly up to 9 Toronto police officers on corruption and organized crime-related charges. The news conference has not happened yet. As I record, they're getting ready to get underway. The Toronto Chief of Police is going to join the York Region Chief of Police, and they're going to talk about what the accusations are. A couple of initial observations right off the bat. This has got to be very, very serious, and they must have some pretty compelling evidence if at least 4 of those officers have been suspended without pay. Police officers typically do not get suspended without pay unless it's very, very serious. Some of the accusations are pretty wild, too. I heard this may be connected to a tow truck organized crime ring. I'm also hearing that they were giving out addresses to hitmen. There's hitmen out there, and apparently not only are the cops not arresting them, they're handing over information on where to find potential victims. I'm also hearing, and this would be just absolutely stunning, that there may have been a plot to murder a senior guard at the jail in Toronto. Police in on this. It is crazy stuff, like the plot out of a movie. Cops arresting cops on corruption and organized crime charges. Don't have any names, don't have the specifics yet. The news conference is about to get underway. I don't think I'm going to be able to carry any of it live in this episode. However, whatever comes out of that, I will have the details for you tomorrow. Another controversy that's brewing right now, and I feel like I should weigh in on this. One of the other hats that I wear is a radio DJ, and you can hear me every morning on Light 92.1 all across Southern Ontario. One of the artists that we play, and many stations do, is a Canadian pop star named Tate McRae. She's kind of this generation's Britney Spears. Not a great voice, not a particularly good singer, but she's good looking, and man, can she dance. Well, there's some people, and I'm going to assume some of these are the elbows up folks, that are quite upset that Tate McRae has now appeared in an ad for NBC's Olympic coverage in America, and in it she wants to meet Team USA. And there's some people who say, given what's going on between Canada and the USA, it is outrageous that Tate McRae would appear in a commercial as a Canadian for the U.S. Olympic team. I just want to point this out. And I don't really have a dog in this fight. I'm not really a Tate McRae fan. But in all fairness, if we're being objective here and this conversation happens to come up, let me just give you a little bit of food for thought. Number one, Tate McRae, as a performer, this is how she makes money. She makes money by doing concerts, releasing songs, and the royalties she gets from those songs being streamed, and from using her name, image, and likeness in endorsements. To me, it's not a big deal that she took a gig promoting the U.S. Olympic team and the U.S. Olympic coverage as a Canadian. To me, that's a non-starter. I'm just happy the girl's working. She's getting paid to do this. You can't tell her to take food off of her own table because of pride. To be honest with you, I think this is more of an embarrassment on the Americans. Was there nobody in America that you could get, that you had to get a Canadian in Tate McRae? I mean, I know the Americans have endless options when it comes to celebrities who could do endorsements. And yes, Tate is quite popular right now. Despite that, I would have figured they would have picked an American to do that. But they didn't. They came to Canada. I think we should wear that as a badge of honor. And not for a second am I willing to condemn Tate McRae because she took a job in her specific industry. Somebody comes along and wants to offer me, I don't know, a couple $100,000, maybe a couple million to appear in a 30-second commercial. You're damn right I'm going to do it. Pride aside, I mean, this is how the girl makes a living. I don't have any problem with Tate McRae doing that. In fact, I still think it's kind of funny that the Americans came and hired a Canadian to promote their Olympic coverage. To me, this is a non-starter. And while, again, I'm not really a huge fan of Tate McRae, I encourage her to do whatever she has to do. Nobody else knows her financial situation or her bills or what have you. And if she gets an opportunity to make money doing what she loves, I don't blame her for doing that. And I don't think anybody should. Hey, times are tough. And I get it. We're in a bit of a trade war here. I don't even like to say trade war. It shouldn't be a trade war. And it does seem like we've made some progress in ending this drama with the Americans. Jamil Javani, not only did he go to Washington yesterday and meet with the vice president, he also met Donald Trump. And Trump sent a message through Jamil to Canada saying, Canada, I love you. Okay, I mean, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. It doesn't really matter to me. But either way, Jamil got some FaceTime with the president and the vice president, the two most powerful people in America. Call me crazy, but that's further than anybody in the government side has gotten. Will it go anywhere? That we don't know. But I'll tell you what, that might come up again a little bit later on in this episode. I'm going to play you some audio from Pierre Poilievre after he left his meeting yesterday with Mark Carney. And by the way, in the spirit of bipartisanship, I thought it was great yesterday to see Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney together sitting down, talking about the issues in front of Canadians and talking about potential solutions. Will that go anywhere? Well, that remains to be seen. But either way, I thought that was a nice sight, and I think it's something Canadians can be proud of. They have their political differences, but when it comes to Canada, they're willing to work together. And I thought it was great that Pierre asked for the meeting. I thought it was great that Carney granted the meeting, and hopefully they can make a little progress. So when it comes to trade between Canada and the USA, no matter how you feel about it, I'm not going to tell a performer who happens to be Canadian but lives and works in the States that she can't do a commercial when she's offered great money to do it. Tate McRae, I think you're doing just fine. But that's just me. And tomorrow is a listener DMs episode. If you want to weigh in on that or anything else I'm talking about this week or in today's episode of the pod, by all means, slide into my DMs at Scott Fox On Air. Another big story, the hockey world being rocked after what most people expect will be the number one overall pick in the upcoming 2026 NHL draft. Gavin McKenna got into a bar fight over the weekend and did some pretty serious damage to the guy that he was fighting. Gavin McKenna goes to Penn State University. He is a hockey phenom. A lot of people think he's going to go number one because there's really not a lot of people that can even keep up with the guy. He's an extremely talented hockey player, and there's a reason he is projected to go number one. He's playing great for Penn State. It's going to be a good few months for him. Well, it might have been. Now he's got this to deal with. Let me read you the story. Serious legal trouble after cops say Gavin was involved in a late-night fight near campus over the weekend. A Pennsylvania court docket filed on Wednesday, yesterday, charges the 18-year-old forward with aggravated assault for attempting to cause serious bodily or causing injury with extreme indifference, along with misdemeanor assault and other lesser charges. The arresting officer filed McKenna's charges on Saturday, the same day Penn State's men's hockey team played its first ever game at the Beaver Stadium. McKenna scored a goal in the 5-4 overtime loss. Details surrounding the alleged incident are still unclear, but one person reportedly suffered a broken jaw, according to a Penn State student-run website that first reported the news. Gavin McKenna, if convicted on these very serious assault charges, could go to jail for 20 years. And it's crazy because I think people hear that and they hear that he was projected to be the number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft, and they think, wow, this guy's ruined his career. I mean, let's take a step back here. Before we start saying things like this guy has ruined his career, just a couple of things I want to point out. Number 1, why was an 18-year-old in a bar that you have to be 21 years old to drink in? Why did that happen? Are we talking just some testosterone-filled super athlete that got a little bit of booze in his system and wanted to fight? Not necessarily. We don't know all the details. And this is my message when it comes to the Gavin McKenna story is let's wait and hear all of the facts. Before anybody condemns Gavin McKenna, before they say he's blown a potential multi-million-dollar career in the NHL, let's talk this through here and let's find out exactly what happened. There's rumors that he may have been standing up for his mom. If that's the case, is it okay that he clocked somebody? Must have hit him pretty hard. And Gavin is quite the athlete. I would not be surprised if he has had a few fights in his day in the past. A lot of hockey players, they know how to throw a punch. And in this case, knocked the guy out and broke his jaw. Okay, but what's the other side of the story? Did he just walk up and sucker punch him? Was there provocation there? And by the way, when they say he could get 20 years for this, I mean, that's a worst case scenario. The odds that he's going to do any jail time for this, I think, are pretty slim. I don't know if he's actually going to see the inside of a jail cell other than when they threw him in there on Saturday night while they were processing his charges. It's an assault. It's a serious assault. I'm sure there's going to be a consequence, but is he going to be ineligible for the draft because he's in jail? I really don't see it going down that way. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't. I think this is something that's probably going to get pled down to a probation, maybe a peace bond. Don't get into any more trouble and this will go away. That's the way I think this is going to go. And there's also the possibility that he may be able to work out a deal with the victim, which wouldn't surprise me at all. There's enough people that want to see this guy get into the NHL next year that they'd probably be willing to pay the guy off themselves. Let's wait and see what happened. This is an 18-year-old kid who got in a bar fight when he was away at university. This is a guy who's got a lot of eyes on him and a ton of pressure on him. Let's wait and find out what caused the fight and if there were any mitigating circumstances there. That's all I want to know before I cast any judgment on Gavin McKenna. Either way, hell of a hockey player. Penn State has got a great one there. And I have no doubt that as long as he's not in jail, he is probably going to do very, very well in the NHL, including in the draft. And I don't think this is even going to stop him from going first overall. As I look at the standings, I think that if the draft were to happen today, first overall pick would likely go to Vancouver. If I'm reading the standings right, well, that makes sense. The kid's from Whitehorse. Vancouver is probably the closest team to home for him. Be a real shame if this interrupts his career. But again, I'm saying that without knowing all the details. And I think it's important that we know all the details before anybody casts any judgment on Gavin McKenna. Let's find out what really happened. Another big story that is happening in Toronto. Toronto City Council has now voted to extend the hours for alcohol sales during the Winter Olympics. Tomorrow are the opening ceremonies. 2 p.m. Eastern Time is when they're going to get underway, although the competition has already begun. Bars and restaurants in Toronto will be able to serve drinks starting at 6 a.m. between tomorrow and February the 22nd. 6 a.m. drinks. So a couple of things on this. Number one, I have a feeling that when the Team Canada hockey games are on, there's probably going to be people that are going to go to a bar and watch it. And if you're in a bar, you don't want to have to wait until 10 or 11 a.m. to have a beer. You probably just want to have a beer and watch Team Canada play. I've got no problem with that. There's some people who are saying this sends the wrong message. This is going to lead to an increase in drunk driving. And I've heard all that stuff before. It's a lot of doom and gloom. It's a lot of scare. You know who I think about in this case? And I think that maybe there's a lesson to be learned here for Toronto Council. Number one, not all bars are going to open up at 6 a.m. just because the Olympics are on. I don't know how many people want to go out at 6 a.m. to a bar and order a drink and watch a hockey game or a curling match or a downhill skiing competition. I have no idea what people might go out and watch. But either way, I don't know how many people are all that interested in doing that first thing in the morning. But one of the things that I'm really aware of is that not all of us work 9 to 5. I'm going to go out here and suggest that maybe bars should have the freedom to open up early anytime they want. You know, back when 90% of people worked a 9 to 5 job, yeah, maybe it made sense to close the bars overnight and they don't open again till 11 the next morning. But there's no shortage of people who do a 9 to 5 job. And what is it they do when they get off work? Let's go hit a patio. Let's go hit a bar. Let's hit happy hour. Let's have a drink and some apps. Well, if you work at downtown Toronto, 9 to 5, there's endless options there. But what if your shift ends at 7 a.m.? Presumably, you might feel the same way. Hey, work's done. I want to go out and socialize. I want to go out and have a drink. Why should you not be allowed to? You're working just as hard as the people who work 9 to 5. Why the discrimination? I think a lot more things should be open, particularly for the people who work unconventional hours. So I think Toronto City Council and all of the cities, maybe even listening to this pod, should consider this. The Olympics are coming up. Open up early. Use it as a test. Let people have a drink at 6 a.m. I'm of the firm belief that we should let adults be adults and make their own decisions. And if somebody wants to go for a drink at 7 o'clock in the morning, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not living their life. They're not living mine. After work, sometimes a drink just hits the spot. Think about this. Maybe you're a paramedic and you've just had a night dealing with God knows what, and you just want to unwind a little bit and have a cocktail before you go to bed. I've got no problem with you being able to have a drink at 7 a.m. I don't understand why there are such restrictive hours on when bars can serve. You know, the argument against it is, well, it'll lead to an increase in drunk driving. It's enabling alcoholics if you can get booze at any time. Well, I'm here to tell you that the rules have changed and you can get booze at pretty much any time, pretty much anywhere. You know, the restaurants and bars might be missing out on an opportunity. There could be a nice captive audience there who likes to come in the morning and have a drink. Maybe they want to have a mimosa with their breakfast. I don't know why the government should restrict that. If people are doing it responsibly, and there's no reason to think that they won't, let them make their own decisions. And you know what? I think the Olympics might prove it. Just as easily, though, it might confirm that there's no market for this, that there's no demand for it. There might be some bars that don't even participate because they don't think enough people are going to come in to make it worth their while. So my message here is this. Let's treat it as a test. And maybe let's consider loosening up the rules and regulations a bit here, not paint everybody with the same brush and assume that everybody is working the same hours. I think that's silly, and I think everybody is entitled to be able to go for a nice stiff drink after work just to take the edge off of whatever it is that they were dealing with overnight. All right, I covered a number of different things there to begin the pod. Now I want to bring in a special guest. The Super Bowl is coming up on Sunday. The Seattle Seahawks are taking on the New England Patriots. This is the biggest sports gambling event of the year. And I thought with the Super Bowl around the corner, and it seems like more people than ever before placing bets on sporting events, let's go to an expert here. So I'm going to bring in my friend Jack Beach. He is an odds maker at PointsBet Canada. Jack, how you doing?
I'm good, Scott. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for taking the time. Right off the bat, I don't even know who's favored in this game because I was led to believe that New England is a fan favorite for sure, but Seattle's the better team. How do you guys decide what the odds are going to be and who's going to win this game from a gambling perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So you kind of nailed it. Like the Patriots are definitely kind of a fan favorite going into this one. I think a lot of that comes from sort of the big bad Patriots of old with Belichick and Brady, right? I think a lot of the time some of the fans are kind of coming in with that image in their head of the Patriots in the Super Bowl, meaning they must be, favored here. But looking at the odds, the Seahawks are actually favorites on the point spread, which is essentially just sort of a handicap for anyone who's not familiar with what that means. The Seahawks are favored by 4.5 points. It essentially implies that they should win the game around 60% of the time. And yeah, how we come up with that's essentially just throughout the whole season, all the data points that we get from all these teams, every football game they play, it all just kind of compiles through different data models. And, all throughout the industry, all the books have different models. But as we get to this point in the year, we're pretty confident on where we stand on all of these teams. So it's pretty much like you said, it's the biggest gambling day of the year. It's the most bets we're going to take on any single game. So it's a market we're fairly confident in. And yeah, so it's sort of showing the Seahawks favored, not huge favorites, but like I said, it's sort of expected to win this game around 60% of the time.
There's so many different ways that you can bet on a game. And I know that listening right now, I've got some listeners who are very, very seasoned sports bettors. They understand the odds and they know how it works. But I also know there's some people listening right now that maybe have never placed a bet through an app or a website like yours. And again, it's PointsBet Canada. I'm wondering, is there an easy way to explain to somebody what these odds are? When you say Seattle is favored over New England, and it's, say, what is it, plus 3.5?
4.5 in this one, yeah.
4.5. So that means that in order for Seattle to win with that plus 4.5, not only do they have to win, they have to win by at least 5 points because there is no half point.
Exactly, yeah. So that's a super common market known as the point spread. Essentially how that works is the other way you could bet on a game, right, is you're betting on the team to win the game, which in our industry is kind of known as the money line. So that's just a standard bet on a team to win the game. But obviously when you have a favorite versus an underdog, the favorite's more likely to win. So when you're betting on them, you're going to receive a lower payout. So in this game, if you were to bet on the Seahawks just to win the game outright, you bet $10, let's say, you would win $4.45. Whereas betting on the underdog, the Patriots here, if you bet $10, you would win $18.50. So that kind of disincentivizes a lot of people to bet on the Seahawks just outright win the game. So if you want what the point spread essentially does is makes the market even so that betting on either side, you receive an even payout. And then you nailed it exactly. So in this case, since the Seahawks are favored by 4.5 points, if you were to bet on them that minus 4.5 points, they would need to win by at least that amount. So you're essentially thinking, I'm betting minus 4.5. I'm going to subtract 4.5 points off of whatever their final score is. So if they win by 4, you'd lose that bet by half a point. If they win by 5 or more, like you said, then you would be winning there. That's
a really good way to explain it because people ask me sometimes, and I've never really heard a good way to explain it. I mean, I know what it means, but to articulate it is interesting. Do people usually place their bets a couple of days out, or is it like last minute, right before the coin toss kind of thing?
We see a big mix for sure. I mean, it all just depends on personal preference, right? A game this big, when there's 2 weeks of lead up, we definitely have lots of people that have already placed their bets. Especially early when the market first comes out with the odds, people that are sort of sharp and do this often, they might have a feeling of where the line should be, and they might, come in with their money and place some big bets in those first couple weeks, and that might kind of move the market leading up to the game. But then there's tons of fans, too, that are going to sit down on the couch at the Super Bowl party right before the game gets going and place bets. You can also bet live, so throughout the course of the game, let's say, you think Seattle's going to win, but you don't want to bet on that sort of shorter line I was talking about. So let's say New England scores a touchdown on the first drive of the game. You could hop on and bet live when those odds will come down. Now Seattle's going to be a little bit less likely to win. So all throughout the game there's betting opportunities, all leading up to the game. Pretty much whenever, as long as the game's still on, we got something up for you.
Is there like a standard average bet? Like, are you guys able to look at the system and say, it seems like most people are betting like $5 on the Seahawks to win it? Or are people betting more or less? I'm not quite sure how it works because when I bet, because I'm a giant coward and I can admit it, I bet like $1 max. If I bet $1, I'm pretty confident. But I've even done like 10-cent bets, 50-cent bets.
For sure. Yeah, no, you're nailing it. We see a super wide range. Average stake, I mean, on this game, I would probably say the average stake is probably sitting around $60. But again, when you say average, like we're talking about, we have people betting really large sums, and then we also have people betting super small, like you said. And really, the only thing we want to talk about there is just make sure you're betting responsibly. Whatever you're putting down is something you can afford to lose. It's supposed to be fun, so whatever you're putting down money-wise, just make sure that it's money you're comfortable playing with, money you're comfortable losing, just play within your means. And yeah, whatever money you like, we don't unit shame. So whatever you want to put down, we're more than happy to take it.
Okay. I'm looking at some of the prop bets that are available for Super Bowl this year, and that's always an interesting thing, and I think it's a good opportunity. If somebody doesn't really care whether it's the Seahawks or the Pats, maybe they're much more confident in what color the Gatorade is going to be that gets poured over the head coach's head at the end of the game, the winning head coach. People can not bet on the sport, but bet on everything around the Super Bowl as well.
Yeah, for sure. The Super Bowl, that's one of the most fun things about this day. Like I said, the 2-week build-up and the game itself is just such a spectacle, right? There's going to be so many people going to a Super Bowl party that haven't watched a single game of football all year. Maybe you're not even going to a party, but maybe you're just tuning in for the halftime show. Especially this year with Bad Bunny performing, it's going to bring in a whole new international audience, people that haven't watched a lick of football all season that are tuning in for the game. So in our industry, we kind of know we're appealing to everybody we can. The way we kind of look at it is anything that might be shown on the TV broadcast throughout the course of the game, we want to give people an opportunity to sort of put some money down on it. So whether it be the national anthem before the game, whether it be celebrity sightings in the crowd, halftime show, Gatorade bath, post-game celebration, we got any number of props up there. You got.
I also like that pop culture is kind of weaving its way into the football betting right now. For example, I saw one prop bet on whether or not Stephon Diggs is going to propose to Cardi B after the game.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that was kind of a spin-off last year with the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce because they weren't engaged yet at that point. So that was a super popular market last year, and then it kind of spun over this year with the fact that, we got another big celebrity power couple with Patriots receiver Stephon Diggs. So, that's a fun one. We got all kinds of stuff up there. We got, like who's going to make a celebrity guest appearance during the halftime show. You take a look. There's any number of things up there. But for sure, you've nailed it. I mean, we understand that the Super Bowl is such a big event. It's not just football fans tuning in. Obviously, we have tons of football-related bets up on site as well for all of our people that are really interested in the game. But we understand that a lot of people watching the game might be their first game they've seen all season, so they're not necessarily looking to bet on a point spread, right? So we look to have as much stuff up there as possible, for sure.
I think that's great. Any offers if somebody signs up for PointsBet here before the Super Bowl and wants to lay a little money down?
Yeah, they're ever changing. So if you download the app there, right on the home screen, you'll see sort of a carousel of all the welcome offers that we currently have. We have Refer a Friend programs, so if you know anybody that does bet with us, reach out to them. They can help hook you up with a Refer a Friend code, which will get you a bonus bet. Take a look at what we have on site there. They're ever-changing. And, take a look and see what we can offer you.
Love that. Hey, when you guys are done with the Super Bowl, because I know that this is the biggest day of the year in sports betting, what are the other big events that people bet on a lot? Are we looking at golf or horse racing? Are we looking ahead to the NHL playoffs? What else is big besides football for you guys?
Yeah, so this is a really busy time of year for us. We have the Winter Olympics just started, so that hockey tournament especially is going to be getting a ton of action for us.
Whoa, you can bet on the Olympics?
Yeah, you bet. Come take a look at pretty much every event that's coming up in these next 2 weeks we have available on site. So if you know anyone competing or if you're a fan of one of the sports, come take a look, see what we have to offer. We got March Madness right around the corner.
Oh, that's right.
NBA and NHL playoffs starting up. So, it's a super busy time of year for us. So, no rest once the Super Bowl comes to an end.
Okay. And just let me ask you off topic. You're an odds maker for a sports betting site. That's got to be a pretty cool job, but I imagine there's a lot of pressure to that, too. You got to get it right or you cost the company a lot of money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's funny, it's kind of changed the way I look at a lot of sports. Like, I'm a huge sports fan first, obviously, and now when I'm scrolling on Twitter and I see a piece of sports news, rather than my first reaction just being like, oh, wow, like how does that affect the sport? My immediate reaction is, oh, how does that affect the odds? And if I'm off, we're texting the guys in the office, making sure that we're adjusting the odds as we need to when someone gets injured or traded or anything like that. So for sure, you're always on. I mean, it's obviously a very cool job and it's a lot of fun, but like you said, you're always on trying to think of ways that the markets might be improved and things like that.
All right, everybody. Jack is an odds maker at PointsBet Canada. You can download the app. You can go to the website. You can look for the link in the description of today's podcast episode if you just want to click that. But if you're interested in doing the sports betting, number one, play responsibly. First and foremost, don't bet more than you can afford to lose. Follow the safety rules and regulations because they're there to try and protect you. But also have fun. I got to be honest. I have so much more fun watching any sporting event when I got a little bit of skin in the game, when I got a little bit of money on the line.
Yeah, you got it. That's exactly right. Yeah, come check us out at PointsBet Canada. Even if you're not interested in betting, don't know anything about betting, if you're just curious about the odds, if you're an NBA fan, you want to see if your team's favored in any game, download the app. Come take a look what we have to offer. If you're interested in, pop culture stuff, we got Oscars markets currently on the website. If you're, a big movie buff, you want to come take a look at that. Whatever it is, just download the app, come take a look, and see if we have anything that might interest you.
Oh, that's right. You can bet on the Oscars, too.
That's exactly right. You bet.
I love it. All right. Hey, buddy, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Good luck this weekend. I'm sure it's going to be very busy for odds makers, but it's going to be a fun game, I think.
You got it, Scott. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much to Jack from PointsBet Canada. Again, download the app or click the link in the description of this episode, and you can go, and they've got all kinds of welcome offers there that are pretty cool. I promised you I would do a little bit of politics in this episode, and I will. I want to take you to outside the Prime Minister's area of the House of Commons. Yesterday, Pierre Poilievre spoke to the media after he met with the Prime Minister. Listen to this.
Canadians need hope right now. They need hope. You want to sneak by here? Good to see you. This is not hope. This is not hope over here. Well, look at this. We've got
We're working. We're actually going to work.
You better start. We've got...
Just as Pierre was doing his news conference, he had just wrapped up the French remarks. Now he's going to go into English. That was when the Liberal caucus started filing into their meeting room, and they were walking right behind Pierre as he was talking to the media. It was really interesting to watch some of the looks on certain faces. The housing minister, Gregor Robertson, he looked kind of starstruck to see Pierre Poilievre up close. Steve McKinnon, the House leader, he shook hands with Pierre. Then you get someone like Patty Hajdu, who just gave him a dirty look. Hey, you know what? It is what it is. Politics are supposed to be, you're supposed to still, at the end of the day, be able to be friends with your adversary. And even though you disagree on political stuff, you can still agree to be friends. And by and large, most members of parliament, even the ones that seem to hate each other on television, a lot of them do get along, and they're friendly, and they can connect on a personal level. It was an interesting moment to see that. But now let's get back to what Pierre had to say about his meeting with the Prime Minister, and also what he has to say about Jamil Jivani going down to Washington to not just meet with J.D. Vance. He also got to meet with Trump.
This is the group here that have given you the most expensive groceries in the G7, and hopefully they'll work in the opposite direction. People need hope that they can actually afford their lives. Afford to go to the grocery store, afford to buy homes, afford to live in Canada once again, afford that they'll be safe on their streets, hope that we'll be a self-reliant economy and military. After 10 years of Liberals, life is expensive, dangerous, and our economy is more dependent than ever. Mr. Carney promised change. After a year, we've seen nothing but illusions. In reality, life is even worse now than when he took office. The illusion was that he would give us affordable groceries. The reality is that he's given us the worst grocery price inflation in the G7. The illusion was that he'd get rid of the carbon tax. The reality is he's brought in another one. The illusion was that he was going to build homes. The reality is that home building is collapsing in in Vancouver and Toronto, and we have the most expensive housing in the G7. The illusion was that he was going to bring safety. The reality is he hasn't changed a single word in the criminal code or gotten rid of a single catch and release Liberal law. The illusion was that he was going to build, baby, build. Remember that? Well, the reality is that even though we gave him exceptional powers in Bill C-5 that he said he needed to build really fast, we gave him that bill in 5 days. We're now 7 months later, he has not approved a single project using that bill. The illusion was that he was going to open new markets in the world, and there's been lots of photo ops and signing ceremonies, but he's not signed a single new free trade agreement with any country. And in fact, he has not gotten the deal that he promised he would have with the Americans by July 21st. Canadians cannot live in Mr. Carney's illusions. They live in the costly, dangerous, and dependent reality that he has created. My message to him is to work with us. Work with us to fast-track results for an affordable, safe, self-reliant Canada. We've got concrete proposals, and we have a track record of showing that we're willing to work together. We fast-tracked Bill C-18, C-13, C-14, C-5, C-3, C-4, and C-12. We're the ones trying to hit the gas pedal. My message to Mr. Carney, stop hitting the brakes, because Canadians need hope for affordable, safe, and secure Canada.
Okay, I mean, great words there from Pierre Poilievre. A little long-winded, but you get the message. I mean, and to be honest with you, I didn't hear much in there that I would have questioned or disagreed with. That's the knock on this government, and it was the knock on the previous government. Lots of announcements, very few results. And right now, I feel like the mood of the country is we want to see some results. So Pierre Poilievre, again, continuing on with a message of hope, but still demanding action from the Prime Minister, and again reaffirming Conservatives are willing to work with the Liberals to pass things that are of priority to Canadians and for defending our sovereignty. The question is, will the Prime Minister take him up on that? Let's circle back on that.
He's going to ask you to work with him. He's going to ask you to work with him. Like
Yeah.
That's he's going to say, you need to work with us. We're the government.
Well,
Why
look,
don't you get on board and get out of the way? Well,
we're not. We have been working to fast track anything that we believe, however modest, might make life a little more affordable, a little safer, and our economy a little stronger. So it's he that is holding up the show. He's been in power for almost a year now, promising rapid change. But I ask Canadians, what's changed in your life? Are your groceries affordable? Is your rent affordable? Are your streets safe? No, they're not. All of those things have thus far been an illusion. But the good news is we're here to work to fast-track the changes and the results that Canadians need.
Can I ask what advice you gave Mr. Giovanni before his trip to Washington?
And who is he meeting there?
So the advice I've given all of our MPs is you need to fight for jobs in your community. Mr. Giovanni's community has been hit with a massive job loss, 1,200 jobs in the auto sector, and he's going to fight for those auto workers, as all of our MPs have been doing. Mr. Carney had promised that he would get us a deal by last July. My message to him today is Conservatives are here to work with the Prime Minister and with the government to knock down these unjust tariffs and fight for our workers, fight for their jobs, and fight for our economic independence.
Okay, again, great words there from Pierre Poilievre. He is suggesting that he'll work with the Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister has to be willing to work with him. And so far, that seems like that was a platitude. That was one of the knocks from the government on the opposition, is that they won't participate in anything. They obstruct everything. They're negative. They don't come up with any ideas. They won't work with us. And of course, it's not incumbent upon the opposition to find a way to work with the government. It's on the government to make policies that the opposition can agree with, and then we get a consensus of Canadians represented. That's how it's supposed to work. You know, the Liberals say, well, the Conservatives won't work with us. I mean, here's a prime example of they're totally willing to work with you. They're offering to fast track different bills. It's really just coming down to the government doesn't really want to get those bills fast tracked. They don't really want to pass a few of those. And regarding Jamil Giovanni going down to Washington, again, the Liberals say we want to work together. Do they? Because Jamil is down there and he managed to get a meeting, not just with J.D. Vance, but also with President Trump himself. He made it a lot further than anyone on the Canadian negotiating team has made it. And yet the government is still critical. Here yesterday, just outside the House of Commons, Melanie Joly.
He represents people working at GM in his writing. I haven't heard once not only denouncing what GM was doing, but also promoting the interests of the workers at GM that are facing unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs by the American administration. And he should be talking much more about it. It's a problem.
I mean, he just went down to Washington and he met with the president and the vice president of the United States to try and see if we can make some progress, or to at least understand what the Americans' position is and what the impasse is here in negotiations between the Canadians and the Americans. I don't really have a problem with Jamil doing this, to be honest. I thought this was supposed to be an all-hands-on-deck effort. I distinctly remember members of Parliament were told, and all people in positions of authority were told, reach out to your contacts in America. Tell them this is a bad idea to keep tariffing Canada and ruining this relationship. I thought they were all supposed to be doing that. Here was an opportunity for Jamil to try and make a little progress, to try and bridge the gap a little bit. I don't understand why the Liberals aren't saying thank you. We need a win here. Speaking of President Trump, there's been a few developments with him, particularly when it comes to the situation in Minneapolis. I want to play something for you here because the president seems to have struck a bit of an epiphany. He seems to realize that the American people, maybe they're a little more divided than he originally thought on the tactics that ICE is using in Minneapolis. Listen to this interview yesterday on NBC.
Mr. President, speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor, spoke to them, had great conversations with them, and then I see them ranting and raving out there, literally as though a call wasn't made. We've done a great job everywhere. The only place there's been a little inflammation has been really, it's not Minnesota, because we've done well with
Los Angeles, too. There's been others. Yeah.
Well, I saved Los Angeles.
I just want to play that beginning part one more time because I've never heard President Trump talk like that.
Mr. President, speaking of Minneapolis, what did you learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch.
Very, very interesting to hear the president say we should use a softer touch. Hey, we've still got to deport the bad guys. Maybe we could do things a little differently. There are reports that this may not have been an epiphany that Donald Trump came to on his own. Apparently, he had a phone call recently with someone who is generally an ally of President Trump, but has been critical of him on this particular file, fellow podcaster Joe Rogan. The president was asked about Joe Rogan just yesterday in this interview. Listen to this.
Joe Rogan was one of your biggest endorsers in 2024. He said he understands the president's sort of plan to deport people here who are here illegally, but he also understands why critics compare ICE officers to the Gestapo asking people for their papers. What's your response to him?
Well, look, first of all, he's a great guy. We had a tremendous success before the election. I think it was his biggest interview ever, and over 300 million people. It was very good. She didn't want to do it, you know. She decided not to do it because she's not capable. But I spoke to him 3 days ago. We had a great conversation. And all I'm doing, I have to keep.
Did he mention this to you? Did you guys talk about this, the ICE enforcement?
Yeah. Just had a good conversation. I think he's a great guy. And I think he likes me too.
Yeah.
And, you know, liking me isn't important. What happens is that I think we do a phenomenal job, but I don't think we're good at public relations.
What does that mean? You've said that a couple times now. What do you mean by that?
We don't sell the great job that we're doing.
And I don't know if that's necessarily it. The president is swimming upstream with the media coverage that he gets. They're not going to give him fair coverage. And obviously, conservatives pretty well around the world don't get fair coverage from the mainstream media. I do think it's interesting, though, the power of podcast media. Joe Rogan can now pick up the phone the president, tell him he doesn't like how things are being done in Minneapolis. And then you hear the president come out with we're going to use a more gentle touch. We're going to be a little softer on this. Incredible influence there from a member of the non-traditional media. Very, very interesting. Just a couple more things I want to play for you. I want to take you to a committee hearing that was happening in Ottawa. Melissa Lantsman, you've heard her a few times in the pod lately. She's a real talented member of Parliament, the representative from Thornhill. In the Standing Committee on Finance, she was talking to our finance minister, Francois-Philippe Champagne. She asked him about grocery prices. This is about 2 minutes long, but I think you can learn a heck of a lot about where everybody stands on this issue. Liberals versus conservatives. When you hear this, this is Melissa and Francois.
We can support abattoirs and
I'm just going to interrupt you because I've got no time, and you're not really answering the questions with numbers. If prices rise by 43% after government intervention, what would failure have looked like? Is it 50%? Is it 60%? Like, what are the benchmarks in your department that says lower prices need to be this much, or stability needs to be this, if everything is going up and we are the leader in the G7 on grocery inflation?
Well, I would challenge you with the data on that. If you look since 2019, you'd see that the data does not support your statement.
I'm looking since you yourself said that you would stabilize prices.
I'm just looking because I happen to look at the G7 numbers because we do benchmark with our G7 peers. And if you look at Canada, I'm happy to share the chart with you. But that doesn't what makes a difference for Canadians. What makes a difference for Canadians
tonight? Wait a second. Grocery prices don't make a difference for Canadians?
I would say what makes a difference to Canadians is to be humble in this place. Humility should be part of our discourse. Canadians are smart. Canadians understand that you have a number of issues that goes around grocery inflation. It's not unique to Canada. They have the same thing in the United States. And what I'm saying is that they know that because you import, you have fluctuation in currency. They know about the issue of climate change. They know about issue with respect to supply chain.
With all due respect, Minister, you've been in government for 10 years.
Yeah,
you yourself said in 2023 that you would stabilize prices, that you would lower prices. And every single price that I have named for you today on every single item has gone up and not down. You're blaming outside factors. Right now in Canada, our food inflation is twice that of the Americans.
Yeah, I'm not blaming anything. I'm just telling the facts. Because when you have people watching at home, they understand.
It's convenient that the facts, it's convenient that you keep yourself and all of government policy, regulation, food packaging taxes outside of your facts. You're not allowed to have your own facts.
But that's why I want to answer to you. That's why I'm saying Canadians understand that food inflation is a global issue. But what they care more is that we're taking structural measures to.
So if it's a global.
Madam Chair, do you want me to answer? Because I'm happy to listen to the question. But if Canadians want to have answers.
You got to answer the questions. Why is Canada the worst then?
Well, I would challenge you on that, but that's not really what Canadians would focus on.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, Ms. Lantsman. That concludes the time for this round.
Good old Karina Gold coming to the rescue of Francois-Philippe Champagne. Wasn't that completely asinine? I mean, it's plain as day. Anybody who's been to a grocery store anytime recently knows that the price is not just way higher than it was, it's continuing to climb. The government said they would deal with the problem. They would fix it. That was 3 years ago. They made a huge production out of it. And still nothing has been done. It's just crazy. One last thing I want to do here before I wrap up this episode of the pod. Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper is in Ottawa right now for ceremonies and festivities around the 20-year anniversary of his government coming to power here in Canada. And by and large, it seems like Conservatives and Liberals have been very happy to see Prime Minister Harper. They've been full of praise for him, and many can now look back and say, yeah, we did have it pretty good under Harper. Just a couple of quick clips from last night at the formal dinner in honor of his 20-year anniversary and the unveiling of his portrait. There's a couple of things I want to play. This one was actually not from the dinner last night, but from a speaking engagement earlier in the day. Listen to Stephen Harper do a joke.
But I can't help responding to that story about my Toronto hockey book. It reminds me of something that happened, which fortunately never ran in the English media. I was in Quebec City doing an announcement. They were building the new rink, and a reporter got up, and there was enthusiasm about possible NHL expansion, and a reporter got up and asked me in French, he said, "Prime Minister, do you think Quebec City is going to get an NHL hockey team?" And I said, no. And the mayor was there and all the députés, and then I said, because if Quebec City gets a professional hockey team, then Toronto will want one too.
Nice moment from Stephen Harper. I've heard that joke before, but it's a classic, so just let her rip. Let's hear the wrap-up to the Prime Minister's speech last night. Listen, I think that this is really good. I think this is now coming from a senior statesman, someone that has bipartisan support now. The Prime Minister he's going to wrap it up, and he's going to tell us all the way he sees the situation we find ourselves in right now. I think this is very important. Listen very carefully for 1 minute and 40 seconds.
The American people have chosen their administration, and that administration is pursuing what it believes is in America's interest. The question for Canada is not how we feel about what the U.S. is doing. It is how will we adapt. Now, friends, I know there are many in Canada, many particularly in the business community, who believe that things will go back to the way they were in due course, with secure and predictable access to the U.S. market and a United States that upholds a global order. I do not believe that is a safe assumption. Rather, I believe that Canada must adapt to new geopolitical realities. To be clear, these realities mean that we must reduce our dependence on the U.S. in order to protect our sovereignty and our economy. But we must do so also clearly understanding that by all the critical measures of international relations, America will still remain our principal partner in the world. Thus, our future path requires balance and sober reflection. Our national conversation must be mature enough to acknowledge that many of the difficulties we now face as a country cannot be blamed on Donald Trump. In too many cases, they stem from bad decisions by our own government.
He's right. No matter how you look at it, we had a lot of problems in this country before Donald Trump. A lot of the issues that are facing regular middle-class Canadians every single day, the housing costs, the food costs, the immigration problems, the crime problems, those have nothing to do with Donald Trump. We did those to ourselves. And I thought that was a very mature and statesman-like way to put it. Prime Minister Stephen Harper calling on all Canadians to do this.
Our national conversation must be mature enough to acknowledge that many of the difficulties we now face as a country cannot be blamed on Donald Trump. In too many cases, they stem from bad decisions by our own government.
Well said, Prime Minister Harper. Miss that guy a lot. Friends, I really appreciate your time today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We talked a little football, we talked a little Olympics, talked a little Toronto organized crime within the police force. What? I'm going to try and talk about that tomorrow. But tomorrow is also a listener DM Friday. Whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind, call me out, compliment, whatever, what have you. I'd love to hear from you. You can slide into my DMs at Scott Fox on air. By the way, one more thing, and I'm leaving this right to the end to see who listens right to the end of these episodes. I think Tuesday, something's going on regarding me, and I think Tuesday, I'm going to be able to tell you guys something that is very, very important to me. An announcement about me. And whereas I don't usually like to make this pod about me, there's certain things that I want to see happen for this country. And there's certain ways that I think we can go about making those things happen. And there's certain ways that I can help make that happen. I'm thinking Tuesday, I should be able to make a pretty substantial announcement here on Scott Fox After 9. And I'll leave you with that until tomorrow, friends. Listener DMs. Have yourselves a great Thursday. I will leave you, as always, with the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now, have a great one, and I'll see you in less than 24 hours. Oh, yeah.